Your descendants will curse your name, not for your poverty, but for the gilded cage of success you build for them. They will have everything, yet own nothing, least of all, themselves. You dream of being their legendary ancestor, the one who broke the chains of the past. But on this path you are merely forging new ones from gold. You are on track to become not their savior, but their original sin. There is a different way, a silent, strategic way. Most who seek to redefine their bloodline begin with a roar. They declare war on their past, on their family's history of mediocrity or misfortune. Their strategy is one of noise, of frantic action, of building a monument so large and so brilliant that it casts a shadow over everything that came before. This is the conventional path to legacy. It is a path of brute force, fueled by a desperate hunger for validation. It is the belief that a new family name can be forged in the fires of immense wealth, that status can be bought with relentless ambition, and that the ghosts of generational failure can be exorcised by the sheer weight of material success. This is a profound and seductive illusion. The man who follows this path believes he is a conqueror, but he is merely a reactionary. He fights the battles of his father, driven by the same fears, only with more expensive weapons. He mistakes the accumulation of assets for the establishment of strength. He builds an empire, a dynasty, a towering monument of achievement, and believes it to be eternal. But a monument is, by its very nature, a target. It is visible. It is static. It stands in the open field, daring the world to attack it. And the world always accepts the challenge. The envy of rivals, the incompetence of heirs, the subtle erosion of time, all conspire against the visible structure. A legacy built on wealth is a kingdom with a full treasury but an unguarded gate. You give your children the fruits of your victory, but you deny them the knowledge of the war. You give them comfort, and in doing so, you breed weakness. You remove struggle, and in doing so, you remove the very mechanism that forges strength. The fortune you build becomes the soft ground upon which they stand, unable to brace themselves when the inevitable storm arrives. The great name you establish becomes a heavy crown they are too weak to wear. This is the great paradox of the conventional legacy. The more you build externally to protect your descendants, the more you weaken them internally. Your success becomes the source of their ultimate failure. This path is not one of strategy, it is one of emotion. It is a desperate attempt to prove something to the world, to your ancestors, to yourself. And as the great general Sun Tzu understood, any action born of emotion is a vulnerability waiting to be exploited. The way of the strategist is profoundly different. It does not begin with a roar, but with a vow of silence. It does not begin with action, but with absolute stillness. It does not seek to build a monument, but to forge a fortress, an invisible citadel of principles and wisdom that can never be besieged. Sun Tzu teaches, the supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. To redefine your bloodline, you must first correctly identify your enemy. The enemy is not the poverty of your grandfather or the anonymity of your name. That is merely the terrain upon which the battle was lost by others. The true enemy is the invisible inheritance, the silent programming that has been passed down through your blood. It is the pattern of thought, the emotional reactions, the self-limiting beliefs that have ensured the continuation of mediocrity. It is the fear of risk, the addiction to comfort, the tendency towards self-sabotage, the quiet resignation to fate. These are the real chains on your lineage. Building a fortune does not break these chains. It merely allows your descendants to be imprisoned in a more luxurious cell. The master strategist understands that you cannot fight a shadow with a sword. You cannot defeat an internal pattern with external success. Instead, you must render the enemy obsolete. The first act of the strategist is not to attack, but to observe. To map the terrain of your own inheritance with the cold, dispassionate clarity of a general surveying a battlefield. You must look upon your family's history not as a source of shame or pride, but as a source of invaluable intelligence. Where are the low grounds, the swampy areas of chronic financial mismanagement or victimhood mentality that have trapped your ancestors? Where is the high ground, the hidden springs of resilience or creativity that were never properly utilized? You must know this terrain better than anyone. you must understand the nature of the ghost that haunts your bloodline before you can hope to dispel it. This is the beginning of true power, the shift from being a product of your history to becoming a student of it. The common man is a slave to his patterns. The strategist is a master of them because he has first taken the time to understand them. He knows that the first victory, the only one that truly matters, is the victory over the chaos within. From that victory, all others will inevitably follow. He does not seek to build something for the world to see, but to become someone his descendants will follow, even in darkness. This path requires a quiet, unshakable discipline. It is the understanding that the new foundation of your bloodline is not laid with bricks of gold, but with daily acts of intention. It is the choice to respond with logic, where your ancestors responded with anger. It is the choice to embrace calculated risk, where they clung to fearful safety. It is the choice to delay gratification, where they surrendered to impulse. Each choice is a single stone laid in the foundation of an unbreachable fortress. You are not just building a legacy, you are becoming the legacy. You are transforming the very code, rewriting the operating system that you will one day pass down. This is the silent war, fought not on the world stage, but in the quiet chambers of your own mind. It is a war won not with a single dramatic act of triumph, but with 1,000 small invisible victories over yourself. This is how a bloodline is truly redefined, not by changing its fortune, but by changing its soul. For a legacy of wealth is merely a treasure to be plundered, but a legacy of wisdom is a weapon your descendants will wield forever. Comment, "I am the author," to begin writing the new book of your bloodline, and subscribe to master the principles of invisible warfare. To begin this war, you must first become a cartographer of the soul. Sun Tzu declared, "If you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles." This is the foundational principle upon which all lasting victory is built. The aspiring dynasty builder, in his haste, mistakes his circumstances for his enemy. He sees the lack of funds, the humble address, the unrespected family name, and he directs all his firepower at these external targets. But the strategist knows these are mere symptoms of a deeper malady. The true adversary is the inherited architecture of thought, the invisible blueprint of failure you carry in your blood. And to know yourself is to recognize that you are not immune. These patterns reside within you, dormant or active, waiting for the pressure of life to give them form. Therefore, your first campaign is not one of action, but of intelligence gathering. You must draft a map of your own psychological and historical terrain with a brutal, emotionless honesty that borders on cruelty. Begin with the low grounds, the treacherous, swamp-like territories that have swallowed the ambitions of your predecessors. Do not simply note that your family was bad with money. That is a child's observation. A general requires specifics. Was it a scarcity mindset that led to panicked hoarding and a paralyzing fear of investment? Or was it the opposite? A profligate, impulsive spending driven by a deep-seated need to project an image of success that was never real? Did they treat money as a tool or as a source of salvation and a cure for insecurity, thereby giving it power over them? Look deeper. Map the emotional lowlands. Is there a lineage of quick-tempered anger, a pattern of burning bridges over minor slights? Is there a history of victimhood, a pervasive belief that the world is a conspiracy against your family, thus absolving every generation of personal responsibility? Perhaps it is a more subtle poison, a tradition of settling, of dreaming small, of celebrating mediocrity as a virtue because greatness is seen as arrogant and dangerous. These are not character flaws to be judged, they are strategic liabilities to be understood. They are the ravines and ambushes waiting for you on your own internal battlefield. You must document them, study them, and learn their triggers with the detachment of a scholar examining a deadly specimen. Next, you must identify the high ground. No lineage is without its strengths, yet these are often the most overlooked assets. An amateur general sees only his weaknesses. A master sees how to turn any feature of the terrain to his advantage. Perhaps your bloodline carries an unbroken chain of resilience, an almost stubborn ability to endure hardship that, while previously directionless, can be harnessed as fuel for your own disciplined ascent. Perhaps there is a hidden wellspring of creativity, an artistic or innovative talent, that was dismissed as a frivolous hobby, but is, in fact, a powerful tool for problem-solving and seeing the world differently. It could be an ingrained work ethic, a capacity for immense labor that was squandered on meaningless tasks, but can be repurposed and aimed like a cannon at a single, worthy objective. This intelligence is vital. These strengths are your staging areas, your natural fortifications. To ignore them is to begin the war by willingly ceding your most defensible positions. The full unvarnished map, showing both the swamps of inherited weakness and the mountains of innate strength, is the single most valuable document you will ever possess. It is the beginning of all strategy. Without it, you are not a general. You are merely the next in a long line of casualties, marching blindly into the same familiar defeat. Once the map is complete, the great work of construction begins. But you will not build a monument. You will raise a citadel. And here the strategist employs one of Sun Tzu's most profound and misunderstood principles, formlessness. The ultimate in disposing one's troops is to be without ascertainable shape, he wrote. Then the most penetrating spies cannot pry in, nor can the wise lay plans against you. The common man, upon discovering his flaws, declares open war on them. He announces his new diet, his new budget, his new ambition to his family and friends. This is a fatal error. It makes his objective clear, it invites scrutiny, and it rallies the forces of inertia and skepticism against him, both from within and without. Direct confrontation with ingrained family culture is a battle you will lose. It invites arguments, provokes resentment, and drains your will. The master strategist does not fight the old patterns. He makes them obsolete. He becomes formless. Your work on the citadel is done in silence. It is a slow, deliberate, and invisible process. The foundation is discipline, but not the performative discipline of the zealot. It is the quiet, daily practice of making the harder, better choice. It is waking before the sun not to boast about it, but to claim an hour of stillness for study while the world sleeps. It is choosing the book on economic theory over the fleeting distraction of entertainment. It is mastering your own physiology, your food, your sleep, your physical training, to forge a body that is a weapon, not a burden. Each act is a stone laid in the fortress wall. No one sees the wall being built, but its strength accumulates with each passing day. The next layer of the citadel is knowledge. You do not merely learn to earn money, you undertake a deep study of the entire system of wealth, human psychology, market cycles, negotiation, the nature of value. You seek to understand the universal laws of power and influence. You are not trying to become a richer version of your ancestors. You are engineering yourself into an entirely new kind of human being, one who operates on a different set of principles. Your family, your peers, they will not understand your new operating system. Your moves will become illegible to them. They expect you to react with anger, and you respond with calm analysis. They expect you to be impulsive, and you demonstrate unnerving patience. You are becoming formless, unpredictable. The old patterns of behavior attempt to latch onto you, but they find nothing to hold. You do not argue with their scarcity mindset. You simply operate from a paradigm of abundance they cannot comprehend. You do not fight their negativity. You build an internal reality so robust and purposeful that their cynicism becomes irrelevant noise, like rain on a stone roof. This is the victory without battle. You have not slain the family dragon. You have simply moved to a mountain it cannot climb. You have built a fortress so strong, so deeply rooted in principle and knowledge, that the ghosts of the past can no longer find the gate. The citadel you have built within yourself is not a sanctuary for retreat. It is a command center. Its silent fortified walls of discipline and its vast libraries of knowledge were not assembled for your comfort, but for the prosecution of a far more subtle and significant war. Having mapped the treacherous terrain of your inheritance and rendered its old patterns obsolete through formlessness, you now move to the next phase of the campaign, the complete and total domination of the psychological battlefield. This is the domain where legacies are truly won and lost. The first conquest, the one that makes all others possible, is the absolute subjugation of your own inner world. An empire can be lost because of a general's fleeting temper. A dynasty can crumble because of a leader's unchecked pride. The strategist understands that his own mind is the most critical territory to hold. Any uncontrolled emotion is a breach in your defenses, an open gate inviting the enemy to pour in. Your ancestors were puppets of their passions. Their anger made them predictable, their impatience made them reckless, and their fear made them slaves to circumstance. You will be different. You must view your emotions not as authentic expressions of self, but as strategic variables to be managed, deployed, or suppressed with the cold calculus of a grandmaster. Consider rage. For the common man, it is a release, a burst of power. For the strategist, it is a blinding fog. It narrows your vision, simplifies your enemy, and deafens you to the whispers of opportunity. It is a fire that provides a moment of warmth before it consumes you entirely. When faced with provocation, insult, or betrayal, the very things that would have sent your forefathers into a self-destructive frenzy, you will cultivate an unnatural calm. This stillness is not weakness, it is the highest form of readiness. It allows you to see the entire board, to understand the opponent's move for what it is, a probe against your defenses. Your refusal to be baited into an emotional reaction is itself a powerful counterattack. It confuses the aggressor. It signals a depth and control that they cannot comprehend, and this unknown quality sows the first seeds of fear in their mind. Then there is pride, the most seductive of all internal saboteurs. Pride is the assassin that arrives after a victory. It whispers that your citadel is impregnable, that your intellect is unmatched, that your ascent is inevitable. The moment you begin to believe this is the moment you become careless. Pride makes you stop gathering intelligence. It makes you dismiss minor threats as insignificant, forgetting that a great dam is breached by a single unseen crack. You must wage a relentless, private war against your own ego. Scrutinize your successes more ruthlessly than your failures. Acknowledge the role of luck and timing. Maintain a state of what Sun Tzu called normalcy, an even-keeled disposition that is neither inflated by victory nor deflated by defeat. This emotional equilibrium is the bedrock of strategic longevity. Your bloodline may have a history of celebrating small wins with excessive bravado, only to be crushed by the next unexpected challenge. You will break this cycle by treating every success as a mere consolidation of position, a preparation for the next move on a board that has no end. You will master your inner world so completely that from the outside you appear as a constant, an unshakable force of nature whose resolve is independent of fortune. With the inner kingdom secured, you begin to project this power outward. This is not done through pronouncements or displays of aggression, but through the deliberate manipulation of perception. Sun Tzu's timeless dictum, "All warfare is based on deception," is the guiding principle. Your objective is to shape how others perceive you, not to seek their approval or admiration, but to make yourself a strategic enigma. To achieve this, you will master the art of appearing weak when you are strong. While you are in your phase of greatest growth, accumulating knowledge, building resources, forging alliances, you will project an aura of harmlessness. You will be the quiet observer in the room. You will listen more than you speak. You will let others claim the spotlight, allowing their egos to expand while you gather data. People build defenses against perceived threats. By being perceived as no threat at all, you are granted unobstructed access. You learn their weaknesses, their desires, their deepest insecurities, all while they believe you are simply a minor player. This calculated humility is a cloak of invisibility. It allows you to position your pieces on the board without your opponent even realizing a game is being played. Conversely, you must learn to appear strong when you feel vulnerable. When faced with a setback, a loss, or an unexpected crisis that threatens to expose a weakness, this is the moment for your most masterful performance. Where your ancestors would have shown panic, despair, or blame, you will display an almost unnerving serenity. This projection of unshakable confidence has a paralyzing effect on adversaries and a galvanizing one on allies. It communicates that the event they witness is merely a ripple on the surface of your power, not a tremor in its foundation. It suggests that your plans are so deep and redundant that this apparent failure was either anticipated or is strategically insignificant. This is not mere bluffing, It is a demonstration of your internal mastery. Because you have conquered fear within yourself, you can project fearlessness. This ability to absorb a blow without flinching is one of the most potent forms of psychological dominance. It makes you a terrifying opponent, one who seems to operate outside the normal rules of cause and effect. Over time, this consistent internal mastery and deliberate external projection will crystallize into your most powerful weapon, your reputation. Reputation is the shadow that enters a room before you do. It is a ghost army that fights battles on your behalf, often winning them before you even arrive. Every action, no matter how small, is a stone placed in the edifice of this reputation. The deal you refuse because the terms were not perfect builds a reputation for unshakable standards. The calculated silence you employ when baited into an argument builds a reputation for immense self-control. The promise you honor at great personal cost builds a reputation for absolute integrity. This is not about building a moral high ground for its own sake. It is about forging a strategic identity. Your name, once associated with the failures of your past, becomes a byword for discipline, patience, and inscrutable purpose. This reputation becomes a form of psychological gravity. It bends interactions in your favor before they even begin. Opportunities will flow toward you, and threats will divert their course not out of affection, but out of a calculated respect for the force you are now known to be. You will find that the hardest negotiations are won by your reputation before you utter a single word. You are no longer just a person, you have become a principle. This is the true mastery of the psychological battlefield, to shape reality in your favor through the sheer, silent weight of who you have become. You have learned to map the terrain of your soul and build a fortress of the mind. Now, before we unveil the method for forging a legacy that is truly immortal, ensure you are subscribed, for the ultimate wisdom is reserved for those who prepare for enduring victory. The final act in redefining your bloodline is not a single climactic battle, but a masterstroke of execution and consolidation. It is the moment when all your silent preparation, the mapping, the building, the psychological conditioning, converges into a decisive action that fundamentally alters the reality of your lineage forever. This is the application of what Sun Tzu called shi, or strategic momentum. It is the culmination of potential energy, built up slowly and invisibly, released in a single, overwhelming surge. The quality of the decision, he taught, is like the well-timed swoop of a falcon, which enables it to strike and destroy its victim. The decisive blow is not what the common man imagines. It is not the acquisition of a final company, the attainment of a certain net worth, or a public triumph that humiliates old rivals. These are outcomes, not the action itself. The true masterstroke is the codification and transmission of your winning formula. It is the moment you transition from being the warrior to becoming the lawgiver. Giving your descendants wealth is like giving an army rations. They will be consumed, and the army will eventually starve. Giving them your wisdom is like giving them the art of agriculture and logistics. You ensure they can feed themselves in any terrain for all time. Your most critical task is to create the playbook, the foundational text of your new dynasty. This is not a sentimental journal of your life story. It is a strategic manual, a clinical and practical distillation of the principles, mental models, and ethical frameworks that guided your own ascent. The legacy of Sun Tzu is not the memory of the battles he won. It is the existence of the book he wrote. His words have outlasted every empire of his era. Your truest legacy will be the same. This playbook must be forged with the same dispassionate clarity you use to map your own inheritance. It must detail the non-negotiable principles of your new lineage, the unwavering commitment to discipline, the sacred value of knowledge over opinion, the strategic imperative of emotional control. It must outline the specific financial philosophies that protect against the old family diseases of scarcity or profligacy. It should contain your strategies for negotiation, for building alliances, for assessing risk, and for identifying opportunities where others only see chaos. Most importantly, it must teach them how to think, not what to think. It should not be a rigid set of rules, but a flexible system for interpreting reality and making superior decisions. You are not just leaving them a map of the territory you conquered. You are giving them the science of cartography itself, so they can map and conquer any new world they encounter. This document, this transmission of your very operating system, is the decisive strike against the entropic forces of mediocrity that have plagued your bloodline. It is an act of genetic engineering on a mimetic level, inserting a new code of excellence that will replicate through the generations. Once this decisive action is complete, once the playbook is written and its teaching has begun, the strategist moves into the final phase, consolidation. The true measure of victory is not the thrill of the moment, but the durability of the peace that follows. While the common conqueror celebrates with feasts and monuments, the master strategist is quietest in the hour of his triumph. He watches. He observes how the new reality settles. He anticipates the secondary and tertiary effects of his actions. His goal was never merely to win, but to establish a new, stable equilibrium on his own terms. This new peace is not a passive state of rest. It is an active state of deterrence. Your reputation, now solidified by your success and codified in your teachings, becomes the primary guardian of your legacy. It dissuades challenges before they are even conceived. It establishes a new cultural foundation for your family, where the old self-destructive patterns are not just forbidden, but unthinkable, alien to their new identity. The lasting peace you create is one where future conflict becomes irrelevant. Your descendants will not have to fight the same battles you fought. You have not just cleared a path for them, you have elevated the entire terrain. They begin their journey from the high ground you established, equipped with the superior strategic knowledge you bequeathed. They will face their own challenges, unique to their own times, but they will do so with a proven system for victory. The ultimate triumph is creating a lineage that is anti-fragile, one that does not merely withstand chaos, but grows stronger from it, because its core principles are designed for adaptation and dominance. You will have achieved what few in history ever have. You have not simply broken a cycle, you have created a new virtuous one. You have established a dynasty of the mind. And so we arrive at the final philosophical truth of this endeavor. The supreme power is not the ability to command armies or accumulate boundless riches. It is the power to shape reality so profoundly that overt conflict becomes a crude and unnecessary tool. It is the power that resides in the throne that no one dares approach, not because of the guards who surround it, but because of the sheer weight of the wisdom and strategic depth of the one who sits upon it. To redefine your bloodline in the way of Sun Tzu is not to become the wealthiest chapter in your family's history. It is to become the author of an entirely new book. You do not merely leave your descendants the spoils of your campaign, you leave them the very art of war itself. This is the only legacy that cannot be squandered, stolen, or eroded by time. It is the only victory that grants true immortality. It is the quiet, enduring power of the architect who has designed a system so perfect that he no longer needs to be present for it to function flawlessly into eternity.